Okay, Jen, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Sure.
Addressable TV has been talked about as a future goal for some time. Where is it currently at in its stage of development?
So I think when you talk about addressable, you're talking specifically about household level addressability because there are various types. Household level addressability will be, we've announced as part of SMG that we'll be launching in 8 to 10 million homes at the end of 2011. So that'll be with DirecTV. So we're starting to see the satellite play come in along with a couple cable companies. Cablevision, for example, is in just under 3 million homes, and there's some other companies that are certainly talking about announcing some things very soon.
Can advertisers scale those universes, or is it still within the Cablevision universe or within the DirecTV universe?
So I think scale is an interesting conversation piece. In the path of the fact that if you look at addressable, there's various forms of addressability. Just like on the internet, there's behavioral advertising and there's other ways through websites to do addressability. You can do zone addressability across the country today. So that's very scalable. In the next piece down, you can look at companies like Navic, Admira, which is a Microsoft company, or Google TV Ads that can do things, national plays. And again, it's all about scale there as well. So instead of household level addressability, it might be about finding the consumer. There's different ways to look at addressable. True household level addressability, you're right, it's a little bit more still on the cable local avails, but when we look to satellite, we consider those national avails because those aren't in individual markets or DMAs, right. Those actually are national. So in our mind, we are moving into the national platform.
What would you say has been or will continue to be a hurdle to get through in terms of creating just national addressable,
scalable
television?
You know, I think one of the more interesting hurdles we haven't spent a lot of time on yet is finding targets, and I think we need to agree on what those targets are going to be. We agreed on age and sex a long time ago. So what's next? Zone addressability could look at income. Zone addressability could look at pets. You know, you could look at a lot of areas. So could household. You know, we've talked about the cat, the dog, the fish, the bird, where we're going to go, but what are we going to agree on? And then the back end metrics as well. What's sufficient for the buys? And I think that's something that we all need to agree upon as an industry moving forward. There's a lot of robust data from set-top box. It's no different than the internet when we jumped into it. So with such a vast amount of data, where will we go at the end of the day? So I do think there's some agreements that we'll need to work on.
Do you think that as digital video, I've seen a lot of the talk about, you know, is it too much data, is it too little data, you know, trying to really figure out what to do with it. And it sounds like, do you think that if people start making these decisions in addressable TV, or if these decisions start getting made in digital video, that it would start to unify things a little bit?
Sure. I mean, we are definitely on the trajectory of trying to figure out in better ways to compare digital video to television. So the internet's trying to be more like TV. The TV's trying to be more like internet. So the researchers are spending an awful lot of time trying to figure out how to figure out what the reach is, right? What's the effective reach? What's the, you know, the best way to look forward? How can we get that target, right? Again, beyond age and sex into the next, you know, realm, and where are we going to go with it? So at the end of the day, I think that we're moving in the right direction. We're going to start to combine a little bit more. But again, we need to agree on those targets. Cookie targeting is very different than TV targeting. My targeting that I'll look at on the television screen is probably more better compared to direct mail.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I'm going to use third-party sources. I'm going to use an Experian, an Axiom, a client database. I'm going to use a company like a TRA, which combines shopper card data. I get true ROI data. I can see, based on what I've placed on television, what they've watched, and then figure out how many extras they've bought. Right? So at the end of the day, that's going to start affecting my targeting. So we're looking a little different down that path too. How are we going to come back together and figure out what the baseline is to figure out how we've done for our brand? And that's the ultimate goal, is to combine and figure out how the money's been spent.
I feel like a lot of the addressable TV conversation is about its development. You know, I've seen you quoted a lot of places talking about timelines and things like that. Is there a way that you'd like to see the conversation change?
To instead of it's coming.
Instead of it's coming,
yep.
instead of how is it developing, when is it going to happen? Questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and we're moving down the right path. So when I was talking before, in 2008, I was invited by the IAB to come and talk about it. In 2008, I talked about an 8,000 person trial. And that felt like a lot at the time. Now I'm talking about 8 to 10 million, right? So that's a great advance in the right direction, but we have more to go in the future. I really now am focused a lot of my time on how are we going to do it in the front end targeting and the back end metrics. I really want to, now that we're there, we know it works, we know it's scalable, we know that we can traffic and we can bill and we can plan and buy it. So now what's the right people to go after for this product? Is it zone level? Again, you know, there's different areas. Am I targeting? What's the right place to go after? So I'm a little more focused on targeting right now.
Cool. What are some of the ways that brands are already taking advantage of addressable TV, and how do you think that they could, you know, take even more advantage of it in the future?
Well, in the addressable TV landscape, when you start at a very simplistic zone level, there are definitely some brands that are trying to look at more from an income base. So it's just beyond age, sex. It could be a zip code level, zip +4. They're trying to figure out geographic skews. I think that's a great place to start for so many companies. Retail, movie, you know, different areas like that. That's a place to start. Then we start to go down with the Microsoft mirrors and we see the Google TVs. Those guys are really about calling out the customers, and instead of picking the programs and optimizing the way we're good at today, it's about kind of changing and tweaking just that little bit to find a program or two where they're hiding that you may not think of. So where are they? It's almost like a print conversation in the past. What's the composition and coverage? How do we go down those paths to use some of those companies to get there? And then household level, of course, is then the good old-fashioned, let's just find them, let's serve them with the right ad, and anything that I don't want should go to another company. So the way the satellite company, DirecTV, is going to do this is great. It's let me just find my target and buy my own target. So you can see there's various levels, and for different advertisers, an automotive could look at this very differently than the pet food company we've been talking about for years. I think there's a lot of opportunities, even within a brand, or different types of areas and variables within a brand to go at the different areas.
Can you talk to how anyone's actually taken advantage of it before, or is that hard for you to do?
It's hard to, you know, I can't certainly betray any client confidences, but I will tell you that we've done some really nice versioning of different types of ads. So we've been able to look at creatives. Yeah, we've done some nice looks at different forms of creative and what works in different circumstances and what's the best way to go after folks. Each of these categories and almost those three areas almost demands a different type of advertising, but that true 30-second, if you've got and you know what your target is, boy, household level addressability is going to cut through that clutter. You know, if you really know your target, and some brands know their targets better than others. Some are more basic, and some are very specific. So we'll help figure out, maybe digital really is the best place for you. You know, maybe TV isn't appropriate. For others, maybe TV is more appropriate than print with the new targeting. May help us redefine our mixes a little bit better than ever before.
Cool. One question I had that isn't on the list, but I've been asking a lot of people who've been sitting here is, what's one thing that is hot right now in digital video that won't be hot a year from now?
Well, in digital video, so I'm on the TV side, so I don't want to talk about the digital video side. In my side, it's set-top box data is hot. So the idea is, how much information can I get on that ad that was viewed? Just plain my 30-second ad that ran on linear TV. How much information can I get back on that to help figure out a little bit more about who it was that I got to? So what kind of reach levels, frequency? It's getting beyond what we see in panel data and looking at true census level data and seeing what the differences are. So that could be in the local area, for example. I think there's a really good story to help us get to some very specific markets that may really still be diary markets, that we're relying on a few people to figure out what's happening in the local market. So hot for us is working with SIM and trying to figure out how we move that needle a little bit further into, you know, a lot of people talk unrated networks too, but for us, we're really focusing on that local side as well. Interested in how we can change the local television discussion.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity.
Us too. Thank you.
Yeah.